What's going on, casters? Dylan from Pandito Gaming here, and today I'm bringing you a video about bulk. Now, this has been a topic that's come up quite a few times recently in the Discord channels I'm in around Elestrals. There have been people looking to buy bulk, people complaining about certain cards being more than 25 cents, 50 cents, a dollar if they're commons or uncommons. Why do they cost so much, and why can't everybody just sell bulk at 1 penny like some of the sellers on TCG Player do? So today, I'm here to kind of break that down, my philosophy towards bulk, and why I generally just don't deal with it. So if we look here at TCG Player, you can see there are a lot of cards that are selling here around the 1 penny, 20 cent mark. Lots of different commons, uncommons, mostly through the mainline sets. Some of the Shattered Stars sets you can see here have really low listings as well. If you were to go into some of the reverse hollows, a lot of them are also selling for 10 or 15 cents. Some people might see these and ask questions of like, well, after a few months, why are these cards suddenly selling at a higher premium? Why are they selling at 25 cents? Why can't I find anybody who's willing to just sell me a whole bunch of stuff? I've seen people posting bulk boxes of 5,000 cards that are worth or that are listed for like $50. Just ship it out the door, get it straight to me. I get all these cards. Um, a good conversation point there. Generally speaking, those kinds of bulk lots are usually searched for playable cards. So those big bulk lots, sometimes they will come with playable cards or rarer cards that'll sell for more. But generally speaking, you're getting the cards that person who opened lots of boxes just didn't want. And you get a lot of these cards that people are selling for 1 cent. So a lot of times when you see people post bulk lots, a lot of times, people who buy them are stores who are looking to search through those cards and find more valuable cards. It is very rare and unlikely that you're going to find a random collector or player who just says, "Ooh, 5,000 cards. Let me just buy it all at once." And that's a big reason why those big bulk lots don't sell for very much. Why doesn't it really translate to these individual cards, and why are some cards listed at these numbers, and why aren't others? Playability is obviously a big factor. If cards are playable, one thing to keep in mind is that the print runs in Elestrals and other indie TCGs are very low. There are not hundreds of thousands or millions of these cards like games like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and Magic have, where there's just so many that there's as many or more than significant number of players. A lot of the print runs within Elestrals, we're talking in the 4 or 5 digits. In Shattered Stars, you're talking in close to the 10,000 range, and a lot of the packs haven't been open for the newer sets. So you're actually talking like mid to low 4 digit numbers for copies of these cards. A lot of these cards are thrown away or gotten rid of or just thrown into a box and left in a closet somewhere, hoping that in 10 years maybe it'll be worth something, or just because you're too lazy to deal with it, or whatever the case is. There's lots of reasons why these cards don't get on the market. So why are some people listing these at these price? Um, let me walk you through what a sale of low price cards looks like on TCG Player. One thing to keep in mind is that TCG Player's fees are roughly 13 to 15%, but they don't scale like that consistently. You can see here, here's an example of a card that I sold for 50 cents. That comes with an enforced minimum $1.49 shipping. So the card in total, the person buying it, excluding tax, spent $1.99. You can see here the fee though is 56 cents. That is close to 30%. That's over a quarter of how much they spent was taken out of what was paid to me. This happens at all low levels of sales. I would say you don't really actually get to that 13 to 14% threshold until somewhere between like $10 and $20. It kind of depends. Sometimes it feels random when it is actually what they advertise it to be versus not. But you can see here that net from this sale, only $1.43 is going to be submitted to my bank account. Now, accounting for all the things that we have to buy starts taking away from that. So there's three main things that you have to purchase to ship a card. The first is postage. So for a single card, if you watch my packing video, you can usually pack between 1 and 10 Elestrals cards in a single plain white envelope. The hollow cards, which I didn't get into this in the video, actually weigh more. So you can't fit 10. You might only be able to fit like 7 or 8, unless you're, shipping irresponsibly and not sleeving or top loading the cards, and then maybe you can fit more. So you have to pay for a stamp. That's 82 cents. You also have to pay for an envelope, and I can show you the envelopes that I buy. I could probably optimize this more, but I don't really want to buy 5,000, 10,000 envelopes at once. I buy the 1,200 pack off of Amazon. Their Amazon Basics. You can see it's roughly at a base. It ends up around 4 cents or 3 cents per envelope after everything's said and done, with all of the discounts and stuff that you can get. And then the other thing, sleeves and top loaders are also important. I usually buy 1,000 lot of Ultra Pros. I also buy card savers as well to ship bigger numbers of them. I like the Ultra Pros for more valuable cards. But you can see here, if you buy 1,000, it's not even a penny to buy. And this comes with sleeves as well, both a sleeve and a top loader. So rounding up a penny for top loader and sleeves. So all in all, you're talking around plus or minus 90 cents to ship the card that you're selling. So I am total netting about 53 cents from this sale on a 50-cent card. Now, ideally, I'm acquiring this card below 50 cents so I can make a margin on it. But something to keep in mind is that it is time involved in managing all of this, right? If I buy this card, which I bought this card in a lot, I have to sort it, I have to store it, and when it's time to sell, I have to go find it, I have to pack it. In general, I would estimate for a single card order, between all of the work to source, store, and pack the cards, you're probably talking about 2 minutes. Could be more, could be less if you're bad at organization, or you're not buying in bulk lots. It could take longer than that. So I spent about 3 minutes of my time to make. I would say I probably paid 40-ish cents for this card. So I made 13 cents in about 3 minutes. That's not a good return. And I'll show you in a bit. I'll explain in a bit how much worse it can get. So if you sell a card at 50 cents, that means you're making about 13 cents in 3 minutes, which roughly translates around $3 an hour. Selling cheap cards one by one does not give you a good return. In fact, if we talk about this from a 25-cent card, obviously the fees will be slightly lower. Selling a 25-cent card actually only takes about 6 cents off of the fee here, because again, there's some minimums. If you were to sell one 25-cent card, you would make roughly 23 cents from that sale. So you make less than the card is theoretically worth, and you're also putting in 1 to 3 minutes of effort between all of the sourcing, packing, storage, and all of that. So generally speaking, you're paying yourself a very non-living wage for that. Now, if you're selling them for a penny, you're actually losing money on the sale, because the fees cause the amount of money you bring in to be less than you have to pay for postage. So posting a 1 penny card, you will always lose money for it. Now, there are some exceptions, and obviously people can buy more than one card at a time. But if you are a person who goes into TCG Player and buys one card for 1 penny, you are paying the $1.49 for shipping plus tax, and you're making the seller lose money. The only person who wins in that situation is TCG Player. So if there's one takeaway, if you are just buying one copy of one card, please don't buy the penny cards, because you are literally making people just pay TCG Player for free. Now, the single cards are not the only things that sell, right? Sometimes you get a small group of them, right? Here's an example of me selling 3 cards for 47 cents. Now, that costs the buyer $2.90. There's 69 cents, nice, in fees. That takes my net amount down to $2.21. After all of the shipping and handling all of that, I make roughly $1.35. So I make $1.35 off of three 47-cent cards, which, as you can see, is a loss compared to the base price of those cards. Again, I am also putting in my own effort and time to pack three of the same card. That's the same as if you're packing one of a single card. So again, this isn't too much different, but we're still talking about a significantly below minimum wage pay here when people buy just three copies of one card. This is actually worse than somebody buying one copy of this card, because the way that the fees work out, the per value card return is worse than if they had just bought one of them, because the fees work differently in that case. Um, Now, of course, people will say, but Dylan, people can buy a whole bunch of cards. They can also be enticed to buy even more expensive cards than the 50-cent card. Maybe they'll buy a few 50-cent cards and a whole bunch of super expensive cards. Well, that usually doesn't happen that way, generally speaking. And these are my, super high. I can't believe you're charging this much money for commons and uncommons prices, where I'm charging anywhere from 50 cents to $1.66 for these cards. We have a total of 10 cards here. And as I mentioned before, you can fit 10 cards in an envelope for an ounce. Unfortunately, one of these is hollow, so I actually had to put 2 stamps on the envelope that I shipped this in because it ended up weighing 1 pound and an ounce. So I actually had to pay double for the stamp. So accounting for the fact that I had to pay for 2 stamps, I netted $7.06, but this actually only paid me out $5.30. And as you can see, that's on what is listed at $8.50 of cards. Now, the other thing about this many cards being bought at once is you can have an amazing organization strategy. People will buy things from different sets. As you can see, this is from base set first edition. These are from Sunsight starter decks. We have Shattered Stars 1 in here. These cards take a while to collect. I would say this kind of an order is probably going to take me an extra minute to collect for, and that's more time taken off of how much time I have to spend packing stuff. Now, for me personally, I'm not spending 8 hours a day on this. I probably pack anywhere between 5 and 10 orders a day. On crazy days, maybe I have to pack like 15 or 20. But generally speaking, I'm not spending my full time on this. This is just a side gig for me. So I don't mind spending that time as much. I actually enjoy packing and selling cards. So it doesn't matter to me as much. But for a shop trying to do this, they're not going to make the money that it costs to pay the person packing this stuff, because they're only making $5 on this whole order. And that's not accounting for how much they would have had to spend to acquire all of these cards to begin with. Now, even for larger orders, these actually can be worse, right? So here again, you're seeing mostly cards that are between 47 cents is the lowest and $1.66 is the most. And they actually bought a whole bunch of $1.66 cards. But the problem here is how many cards this person ordered. They ordered 21 cards, which for me, I usually say if it's between 10 and 20, I'll just make 2 envelopes. If it's, right at 10 or 11, just over the 1 ounce, then I'll probably add an extra stamp. And I know you can get partial stamps and all that stuff. I just don't deal with that. But this here, because of how many cards there were, I ended up giving a bubble mailer with tracking for this. And bubble mailers generally will cost anywhere between $5 and $8. This one in particular costs $6.68. $6.68 off of what we had here knocks me down all the way to $11.09. I'm making less than 50% of what the cards are worth. So unless I'm buying these cards for half of what I'm paying, or for what I'm selling them for, it's not even going to net even for me. And that's not good, right? Now, you could argue, well, stores can get things in bulk for 5 to 10 cents each. Like I mentioned, a lot of these cards that are playable, people don't want to sell. People don't want to get rid of in those big bulk lots. And people won't buy those other cards for 50 cents or 75 cents. So imagine all of these cards instead were an average of 25 cents each. Let's say we had to ship 24 cards at 25 cents each. So that nets out to $6 worth of value before fees. Just the shipping costs more than 668. So if you were to sell 24 cards for 25 cents on TCG Player after fees and shipping, you would lose $4. That's crazy. You would literally lose $4 and all of your time and all of those cards that you spent time collecting. It is not worth selling on TCG Player these lower level valued cars unless you're getting at least 50-ish cents for them. So that's one of the reasons why if you ever look at my store, you'll notice I don't sell cards for less than 50 cents. 50 cents is generally speaking the minimum that I will post cards for. Sometimes I'll post it for as low as 45 cents if people are trying to, race to the bottom and whatever. But generally speaking, I try to keep my cards at least at that threshold because I know that I'll get not negative value if I sell them. Now, there's some exceptions to this rule. Obviously, if you're selling things in person and you don't have to go through TCG Player and you don't have to deal with shipping, selling bulk is much easier and you can sell them for 10 cents, 20 cents, whatever you think they're worth. If you're just buying them off of a friend or something, I think it's completely reasonable for you to offer a lower amount. When you're going into a store and you're buying things there, you still have to deal with paying the employees, paying for the facilities. If they sell cards for 10 cents each, they're getting something from it, but not a lot, right? Especially since most people won't buy random bulk. They're not looking to buy hundreds of random bulk. Most of the bulk that people will buy are those playable cards that everybody wants. The cards that only a few people want, the master setters, the collectors, the fans of a specific card. Expecting people to sell those cards for under 10, 15, 25 cents implies they have to keep space in their store. They have to go source cards. They have to pay people to sell them. I don't think it's reasonable in an indie TCG where there's not people constantly looking for these cards to expect most of these cards to go for less than probably like 10, 20 cents in person at a store, or 50 cents if they're being sold through a marketplace like eBay or TCG Player. In general, I only stick to commons or uncommons that I think have some value. At set releases, I'll post them for 50 cents or so to see if people want them, people who are trying to collect real quick. I'll keep Shattered Stars commons because those are alternate arts that have a much lower print run, and people are generally interested in those. And you might find somebody. I had somebody the other day buy out all 170 Necruff cards that I had from Shattered Stars 1 in my basement. Don't worry, I kept a couple in my personal collection, so I still have them, but and those sold for 50 cents, and that had some value to me. But in general, I stick away from bulk. For those buyers out there, keep in mind, like, you don't want people to lose money selling things to you, and people should want to make a minimum wage. To all those sellers who are out there racing to the bottom trying to sell singles for a penny, you should check your books, see how often you're actually losing money selling these cards, and rethink where your minimum value is. I know TCG Player provides a tool that auto lists under the lowest listing, and that's how a lot of these people get to a penny. You should stop using that for a lot of cards, or set a threshold where you won't go under that point, because you're probably costing yourself money. Hopefully this was helpful to somebody out there. Hopefully you all enjoyed this. I appreciate you sticking around listening. Bulk isn't the most exciting topic, but I figured it was something that people have been talking about recently. I wanted to kind of cover my stance, how I don't really indulge too much in bulk, but how it can be useful. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you. I'm out.